Hello, students. You were the first to try this new experimental way of doing PowerPoint slides for costume history. I'm going to try a narration. We're going to see how that goes. So bear with me. I'm going to do the introduction of terms. I'm going to do it in two sections, part one and part two, so the file sizes won't be too big. So let's go ahead and get beginning. Oh, by the way, get started. I'll probably go pretty fast on this, so bear with me. Okay, terms of definition of terms from Encyclopedia Britannica. Off to a great start. Costume, from the French, Latin, consuetudo, more at custom, prevailing fashion and coiffure, jewelry, apparel. Also an outfit worn to create the appearance characteristic of a particular period, person, place, or thing. Fashion, from the Middle English fashion, I think, façon, French, always fun to say, which is a distinctive or peculiar and often habitual manner or way of prevailing custom, usage, or style. The prevailing style. So costume is what you wear. Fashion is more of an overall term. You don't wear a fashion. You wear a clothes, you wear a dress, you wear a costume, but the costume is dictated by the way, the manner, or the way. This is the way. Most important identifier of costume is the silhouette. You can see we have three here. Let's see. Try this marker thing. This guy here, here, and here. What are they? Well, as we can see in the next slide, we have Pharaoh from ancient Egypt. We have a woman from the Edwardian period, and then we have a gladiator from the Greco-Roman period. Going, oh, don't give me that. Let's go back a little bit. Can't do that. Okay, never mind. So you can see they have distinctive silhouettes. Now, I did this this PowerPoint presentation probably about 10 years ago, maybe 8. Now, some of these have changed. I'm leaving them in here, but in the present day, the designation of gender, age, occupation, so forth is an enhancement of attractiveness, has gone through some changes with changes in how we designate gender, sex, so forth and so on. I'm leaving them in here because this is for costuming for the stage, so that is still something we have to deal with. So we're going to keep with the two genders for right now, which is a fundamental category, as you can see, differences in fashion between men and women over the centuries, over the millennia, you could say. More so today than ever. It's starting to blend more, so let's take that into account. But for most of history of fashion, which this course is concerned with, men and women dress differently. They will take a radical turn in the late 18th, 19th century, as you can see, as men become more conservative and women stay with the same sort of following the fashions and being a little bit more varied than men. Designation of age, again, starting to slide away, but at the time, we still have this through most of Western history. Coming of age, putting your big boy pants on or your big girl pants on. You see on this picture here on the left, that one. Generally, all children, toddlers under a certain age were dressed in dresses. Men, boys and girls. Didn't matter. There was also the idea of dressing your age. Why is she wearing that skirt? That skirt is too short for a woman of her age. So there is an age designation. Status, of course. What kind of clothes, the material you're wearing shows where you are in the social and economic status. Again, modern days, kind of blurring, but for costume, for doing the show, also important. Also, we'll be talking about sumptuary laws, which is a medieval law restricting expenditures on clothing for certain classes. Don't dress above your station, if you will. Also, occupation, that's a duh, no-brainer. Policemen, going to wear policeman's uniform. Nurses, firemen, military, sports groups. That's how you tell what they are. Group, if you are, people tend to be social, more or less. So if you're in a similar group, you're probably going to dress like them. It's going to make you more comfortable. Usually one person will guide this, set the fashion, a trendsetter, a style setter, man or woman of mode, fashionista. Now we call them influencer. That's the term of the day. Ceremonial use, obviously, religious services, the royal family. If anybody's ever watched The Crown, you can see all that pomp and circumstance. The military, kind of military uniforms they have to wear. Of course, enhancement of attractiveness, which changes over time. Generally speaking, kind of a stereotype, but generally speaking for men, the idea of power, financial success, masculinity, that they can be the breadwoman. Women, enhancement of physical attributes. Erogenous zones. So over the ages, there has been shifting of what is sexy and what is not, but almost throughout the entire history of Western fashion, the bosom, enhancing the bosom, has been one of the main goals. Sorry to have to get so graphic, but fashion is not pretty. Obviously, climate control. If it's hot, you're going to wear clothes that make you comfortable in the heat. If it's cold, you're going to bundle up. That, again, is another no-brainer. Okay, now that we know what costume does, what are the components? Well, there are 5. Material, technology, color, ornamentation, accessories. Let's look at these briefly. Material, obviously the type of fabric, the way it hangs, the way it gathers, the way it looks. Technology, very important, as you'll be seeing, a subcategory of material. How is the fabric made? How is it woven? How is it gathered? What can you do to manipulate it? That will change, of course, throughout history. Color, or we could say dye. Most color is natural, particularly in the beginning. But as we get closer and closer to modern day times, you will see that dyes will take an important part, will play an important part in fashion. Ornamentation, that is the embroidery, that is the beadwork, anything to enhance the garment, patterns, so forth. Rouging, ways of stitching, of tailoring, that will make the garment stand out and look attractive. And of course, accessories, shoes, jewelry, millinery, hairstyles, all the other accoutrements. That is not something you actually wear. Now, clothing itself actually falls into 2 simple categories: draped and tailored. Draped has a couple of subcategories: draped and slip-on. Tailored has 3: close-sewn, open-sewn, and sheath. And outfits can be any combination of these. Let's look at these in depth, shall we? Draped, obviously, is basically just wrapping a piece of material around the body or from the shoulders. Very important in early Greek and Roman and Egyptian societies, basically a shawl. Slip-on is a tunic, usually 1 piece or 2 pieces of fabric. It says 1 piece here, but it can be 2. Hole in the head, hole for arms, whoop, over it goes, and worn from the shoulders, like a t-shirt kind of. Close-sewn. This is basically a shirt or blouse, a lightweight material fashioned around the body and fitted with sleeves. So a more fitted version than the previous, which it won't let me go. I wish it let me go back. The previous slide where you had just the tunic, so it's a little more fitted. Open sewn is the same. It's a jacket or coat. There's a way to get on. You don't have to pull it over. You just slip into it. And of course, sheath is like a sheath dress, closely fitted to the body, tailored, particularly the legs, but also, the sheath dress, which is very important, is a sheath garment. Okay. Next is the 3 phases of costume in Western history. We are focusing on Western history for the interest of time. We'll go a little bit outside of that with the Ottoman Empire, with the Arabic world, but mostly we're staying in our backyard for the moment. Okay, phase 1, Antiquity to Middle Ages. Costuming was pretty basic across all nationalities, all classes. Did not reflect a national identity or a cultural identity. Little variation. Almost always long, loose, and draped. In 2, Middle Ages to Industrial Revolution, we start to see more of a personal identity. We start to see more of a separation of the sexes. We start to see more variation between classes. Fashion becomes important. More emphasis on tailoring, less on draping. And then phase 3, Industrial Revolution to the modern age, which is the era of mass production of clothes. So less personal, not dresses and suits made individually, but mass produced. This is where you get the idea of haute couture, which is a counter influence to mass production. so that you do get those fitted pieces. But basically, overall, what you're trying to do here is get as many clothes out as possible. You try to make people interested in those clothes, fascinated by those clothes, and then you can sell a lot of the clothes. Okay, we're going to go on and talk a little bit about the types of natural fabrics. We talk a little bit later about, we may talk a little bit about man-made fabrics, but right now we're going back to the roots. Natural, two categories, cellulosic and protein. Cellulosic are made from plants, protein from animal fur or animal hide. The two most common are, of course, cotton and linen. Cotton, number one, leading fabric worldwide, produced all over. It was expensive and labor intensive until the invention of the cotton gin in 1791. Getting those bowls of cotton, little B-O-L-E-S, of course, bowls of cotton, picking them and separating them from the lint and the seed. It was horrible. It was time consuming. So it wasn't very cost efficient to do a lot of it. In fact, to be honest, slavery might not have gained a foothold in the United States if the cotton gin had been invented. Slavery might not have been, on balance, as horrible as it say, because it's predicated on the misery of humans, but it wasn't that cost effective until that stupid cotton gin came along. So it's a double-edged sword. We get slavery, but it also is a very good invention. I don't know. It's a dichotomy that we have to live with, I suppose. Leading producers: China. I'm going to stop there in case I get in trouble. India and the United States. Short cotton is more common in the United States and the Americas, and the longer, more luxurious fibers are found in India and Egypt. Egypt is especially renowned for its cotton. Egyptian cotton, as you hear, is the best, is because it's the long fibers. It's breathable, it's strong, it absorbs and evaporates moisture easily, and it takes dye very well, which is very important. Linen, not as around as much, but an excellent fabric. Used to be very prevalent in the 18th, 19th century, 17th, 18th, and 19th century. It's taken from the linen plant, and that's the yarn is called linen. It is the oldest cellulosic fabric used by humans. It grows well in a lot of climates. Russia still does it. Belgian and Irish linen are prized for their quality. You can see, if we look over here, let me get that. Those are linen plants. And then with that, you make this down here. Let me get it. This is flax, which is also known. Flax is the fiber. Linen is the material, but sometimes the material is called flax as well. Ready to be spun into yarn. Very lightweight, very, very comfortable to wear. 2 to 3 times stronger than cotton. Excellent conductor of heat and takes dyes exceptionally well. It's harder to get, and it's a little more expensive than cotton, but it's very easy to weave. It's very water durable, extremely durable. It doesn't shrink up. So it's still here. You can see on the right the sign of the dress shop. Flax is here. Gayabera shirts or wedding beach shirts are usually made from linen. It tends to be a little kind of translucent at times, particularly if it gets wet. So if it gets wet, you're just wearing a translucent shirt. So try not to do that. Now, here's an interesting thing. Bed sheets were often made of linen because if you had a nice, well-woven set, it could last more than a lifetime and even be passed down, a trousseau, to your heirs. So that could be several generations. Now, this being said, if you go to Walmart and Target and you see bed linens, those are not linens. They're made of cotton. There's no such thing as a cotton linen. They just kept the term bed linens, even though they are actually bed cottons. I hope it clears things up. Quickly, 2 other cellulosic fabrics worth mentioning are rayon and bamboo. Rayon is made from wood chips. It's similar in feel to cotton or silk. Not as elastic, but cheaper to produce. Some people think rayon is man-made. It's not. It's a natural fiber. Bamboo is also an excellent one. Mostly in the Far East, in Asia. Very popular in sheets there. Underwear as well. Very similar in cotton. And from a very sustainable source. So there's a lot of bamboo in Columbus. I know that some people hate because it's invasive. So now you know what to do with that bamboo. Turn it into underwear. Just as an aside, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, both bamboo and rayon are made from a process called viscose processing, which is you turn it into this pulp. You take the fabric, you turn it into this cellular pulp, you mush it up into this pulp into a soft, it's called honey. It looks like taffy. Then you take that taffy through this bad boy. This comes in here, you spin it around and around, it goes through, and it comes out thread or yarn. And that's how you get rayon, and that's how you get bamboo. Okay, I'm going to stop here at protein. We're going to do this in part 2 because this is about 15 minutes, so we're going to see how this goes. So I will talk to you again in part 2. Thank you. Hello, students. You were the first to try this new experimental way of doing PowerPoint slides for costume history. I'm going to try a narration. We're going to see how that goes. So bear with me. I'm going to do the introduction of terms. I'm going to do it in 2 sections, part 1 and part 2, so the file sizes won't be too big. So let's go ahead and get beginning. Oh, by the way, get started. I'll probably go pretty fast on this, so bear with me.